It's time for Africans to speak as a collective voice and be our very own advocates in the global world order. This is according to the Chief of Staff to former President Muhammadu Buhari, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, at the opening ceremony of the Africa Summit of the Future Dialogue with the theme, The Africa We Want and the United Nations We Need. According to Professor Gambari, Africans desire a United Nations where they will be key players in the definition, design and implementation of a new developing world order. Our correspondent, Victoria Longjohn, reports.
Regional leaders, government representatives, heads of multilateral agencies, members of the diplomatic corps and development partners have gathered for the Africa Summit of the Future Dialogue with the theme, The Africa We Want and the United Nations We Need. The dialogue seeks to open a new vista for African policy researchers and advocates to critically discuss and advance policy research on what Africa wants and the type of relationship the continent needs to have with global bodies like the United Nations.
The time has come to have that change of mindset. Africa is part of the challenges but also part of the solution. And in any case, if you look at the Charter of the United Nations, it says we the peoples of the United Nations. It didn't say we the government. Yes, intergovernmental relations are the key of the operation of the year, but the Charter emphasizes an organization of we the peoples of the United Nations.
Security of the region is pertinent on the minds of participants here, and speakers propose operationalization of the Africa Standby Force to serve as a signal to the world that Africa is ready to intervene in her affairs.
This order must be legitimate, must be pro-African, must be equitable, must be inclusive, and must be owned by the global South. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, the reform of the United Nations Security Council. That is the UN we need, not a paralyzed UN Security Council.
The chief of the government of the Federation, Mr. George Akume, represented President Bola Tinubu at the event and his piece on the approach of the government to the security challenges in the continent.
I make bold to give the assurance that at every given opportunity at the various fora in the UN and the African Union, as well as our regional economic groupings, would listen to and support your efforts to push through. We're making every peaceful effort under my chairmanship and authority of the heads of state and government of ECOWAS to negotiate a peaceful return of democratic governance and membership of the organization by the affected ECOWAS member states within the shortest possible time.
Africa's vast growing youth population and the need to foster economic growth through development bodies like the Africa Development Bank and other development partners to create jobs and improve the livelihoods for Africans was also highlighted. There is also the call to give the youth a seat at the table.
My message today is really a call to action to remind us that even as we deliberate, even as we bring forward recommendations on behalf of young people, that we include them in the conversation. But what we really want to do is learn from your extensive experience to build on what we know and to carry it forward.
The recommendations here are expected to lay a foundation for effective cooperation on the continent, as well as the establishment of an African network of think tanks that will follow up on the strategies at this summit. Victoria Longjohn for Channels Television News.